Please hit like, share, and subscribe. Now enjoy the Practical Guitarist podcast.
Good evening, Jim.
Good evening, David.
You're just laughing because you don't hear any of that, right? Like, you just see me bobbing my head, right?
Yeah, we're sitting here, and David is enjoying the music, and I'm like, what the hell's he hearing?
Yeah, you know, that's the hazards of doing a podcast at a remote location. Let me adjust my camera so it's centered on me at least. Ridiculous. Yeah. All right. So, some shit happened. We're gonna talk about Gearfest. Or Un-Gearfest, as I've been calling it. Tonight's focus is going to be on Un-Gearfest, but it's also going to reveal some things about myself, and just as a woeful distraction, we're going to talk about pickups a little bit, because I have pretty much every style of pickups you can buy now, and I want to share some thoughts, and it actually relates to what's new, so. And then we'll do a gig report at the end of this. So let me get the segment where it should go. Wait a minute. Move the indicator. There we go. Cool. So let's start with the what's new. Okay, I start with mine. So I have this guy. Okay. You've never seen this before. Most people have never seen this before. They don't know what the hell this is.
Take a guess as to what it is.
What do you think it is?
It's a transformer of some type, or at least a transformer replacement.
Gee, what would ever have told you that?
I know. I can't believe it. I learned to read plates back in the, what do you call them?
Schematics.
Schematics back in the day.
So, this is a Happy Valley analog pickup simulator. And what this allows you to do is take active pickups and make them like other pickups. It's an impedance adjustment. Okay?
Yep.
And then this.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
This switch goes from humbucker to single coil. So, if you want to change the frequency shift, and that's kind of the thought process. Well, that's kind of a problem because the guitar I'm using this is HSS. Although I do favor one of these positions on the switch, and I actually sort of know where I want it dialed. This is going to allow me to get my sun face back on the board. But because it changes my tone pretty dramatically coming out of the guitar, and since I use HSS, I think it makes more sense to put this in a loop switcher just with the fuzz. So this only comes on when the fuzz is on. So that's kind of where I'm going with this. So there's this, and I have another new item actually sitting here. So we're in the middle of finishing up recording and mixing, doing test mixes for this forthcoming album, which maybe I'll do a big debut at the end of the episode here, because I'll tell everybody what the band name is. We finally decided on one. So I got a JCR1 reamp box, courtesy Guitar Center, Robert Jackson. And I've just been running my guitars through this back into my real amps, and actually using real amps instead of my Helix native stuff. And I gotta say, I always thought like, oh, plug-in will be fine, because after you've played it, like, it doesn't, it's just a sound, right? You dial it in the way you want it to sound. Well, that's kind of not true.
Right.
So let me elaborate a little bit, because what I found was that, like, complexity of gain, harmonics, and all that stuff are totally different using my real amps going through wall of sound, torpedo wall of sound. So I'm actually taking dry guitar out of my Captor X, running that to the dry amp out of my Captor X, running that into my interface, and then putting torpedoes wall of sound plug in and a couple of cab presets that I've got that I made in there. And the results they're freaking great. Like, every amp I've thrown through it has sounded good. I've used the amp one and the Mark V 25 through it already, with pedals, without pedals. And it's just been a stellar experience for recording. And now granted, you know, I can't automate it. So like you have to splice, or you have to like, you have to do punch-ins for when you want to turn something on or whatever. If you know, want the overall tone to be one thing and then have it only come on for the punch-in. But that's fine. It's just, you know, it's a limitation of doing it that way. But I'd say like, I won't ever expect to track guitars again using a plugin. I know a lot of people are like plugins, because they make it easy and flexible. We'll see, because we're gonna get this project mixed, and we'll see what the guy does, because there may be some. So I'm in talks with Stephen Miller, but I'm also in talks with someone else. We'll see what winds up getting used. I know if I go with Stephen, it'll probably get reamped through an Axe Effects, which,
right.
I mean, I'm neither here nor there as long as it sounds good, as long as it sounds like what I want it to. So like, and I've gotten to the point where, you know, I think when I originally had this conversation on the show, was like, I want it to be exactly like my rig and whatever. Like, I really don't care so much, provided like this song is a Plexi style amp, this song is a Mesa style amp, like it's got to be like a Mark V sound or something like that.
Yep.
And so just being a little little less granular than like, no, it's got to have these tubes, and you know, I'm not going to get that dicey with it. And the other thing is like, right. I would rather hand him tracks without cabinet models and just be like, pick your own cabinet models so they fit the mix. You know what I mean? Like, it makes more sense for me to leave the cabinet model up to them than the amp model so much, because I think the amp determines a lot of what the gain sounds like. So that's just my thought process on that. And this tool is going to help me get that done. So you've got a what's new. There's something sitting there that doesn't look appropriate.
Right.
It kind of
one thing that doesn't look
yeah.
right.
What it like you have another matching headstock on the wall over there, but it's like it doesn't seem to fit the other headstocks that are sort of obscured from vision here.
Yeah. So there's my normal guitars, obviously. So all my normal ones, and then oh my, what's this? So I'm a little skeptical right now, and I'm doing a little research. So right now, what I'm being told, oh, sorry, it's going through the Kemper right now. But this is a blonde 2013, kind of say that on here, vintage 64 reissue Telecaster.
Not thin line, right?
No.
Thin lines are 70s.
Not a thin line. Right. And this is really really nice, really light. Mm-hmm. Surprisingly light, because there's a couple of things
that are supposed to be ash.
Yeah. A lot of things that have totally turned me off from Telecasters that I've played has been the neck profiles being either too big or too small, always one or the other, and being too heavy or way too light, didn't have any resonance. And there were a couple other things. And so, like the top loader bridges, I hate the top loader bridges. I like the barrel type.
Why do you hate the top loaders?
Because they're a pain in the ass to restring, that's all. It's just
fair enough.
Them.
I just asked. I just wanted to see how much you knew, because a lot of people hate it. They go, "Oh, the tone sucks."
No, it's got nothing.
It has nothing to do with tone. Zero.
Absolutely nothing to do with the tone. Absolutely zero to do with the tone, because your tone is from here to here, not from there to there. But anyway, the big reason is because the top loading bridges have that little. You got to put that little crook in the string, and then you're like, and it's okay with the heavy strings. They're kind of easy. To do those lighter strings, a pain in the ass. I mean, if I really wanted to top load this, I could just drill a hole in the back.
It depends on your saddles too, because some of the saddles don't make you do that shenanigans either.
Right.
So,
but and it has a nice setup. It had a nice twang. It had a nice spring. But then I got it home, and I decided to take a look at it, because there were some things that I was like, I wonder. So I took close-up pictures, and one of the close-up pictures I took, see this headstock?
Mm-hmm.
What do you see wrong right away?
Well, I don't see anything, but maybe it's because it's on camera.
So there's a hole in the decal.
Yeah, you got some missing stuff in the decal.
And there's a chip in that.
Yeah.
And then,
this is a guitar from 2013. What's the problem?
Right. And that might just be what it is.
I'm going to give you a piece of advice, Jim.
Hold on. Because you're talking to a Gibson guy who's like always looking at minute details. So I pulled the neck.
Okay.
So I took the neck off.
All right.
And I looked underneath the neck. And I said, okay, let's see what it looks like under the neck. I thought I would see Fender, but not always, I guess, because you don't always.
No, they don't necessarily put their name underneath there.
And they're also very inconsistent. This is a made in America. It's supposed to be, and everything. All the parts that I read said made in America, made in USA.
Yeah. Go ahead.
They stopped saying made in America a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And all the pictures of these I found. One thing that was inconsistent is that damn decal. Not that it was inconsistent on where it is and the size and everything else, same type of logo. Some of them have little writing underneath the Telecaster in quotations, and some of them don't. Same year, same backplate, same everything. So I'm like, oh, this is going to be a number.
There's more to that, right? So the same year thing, it depends on the transition year, because they use different decals all the time. We were trying to date a guitar just recently for somebody. I was helping them with it, and I saw silver and gold logos on the same guitar from like a 3-year time span, and it's like they went back and forth, and it was weird. And it was a Squire, but it was like one of the fancier Squires from the late 80s. And we were kind of like, I was kind of taken aback by it, because I was like, well, I don't know if that's legit or not, and we still don't know if it's legit. So, that said, I mean, having the chip out where that decal at basically says that it's a legit neck.
Right.
Because it's just the decal's missing a chunk because somebody hit it with something, probably a screwdriver. Quite honestly, because if you look where that was at, that's right by the string tree. And if you're gonna slip with a screwdriver, maybe push it on a string or something at the string tree, you're gonna chip somewhere. And I wouldn't worry about the decal on that at all, to be honest. Doesn't mean anything. In fact, your older Fenders usually don't even have a decal. It gets worn off anyway. So, but the thing is, it's a 2013 Gem, and this is the first Telecaster you found that you actually like. So it's like, why would I sell that unless something catastrophic wrong with it, like the neck's warped? I think I would probably just hang on to it.
Right. And the thing about it, I mean, the neck is in great condition and everything's good, and it's in better condition than some of the ones they've got online. But the only thing that bothers me is I'm curious as to whether or not it's a replacement neck. And
how would you ever know, Jim?
That's exactly what I was going to say. And how I would know, I don't know how I'd know.
No, it doesn't look like a replacement neck to me. Yeah, and you'd have to go to a hell of a lot of trouble to get one from Warmoth and put a decal on it.
Well, that's, the tuners don't look exactly the same as the others, but Fender is
Let me see the tuners.
Let me show you the back of them,
because I'm very familiar with vintage style Shaler.
So they're
tuners.
They're the ones you put in.
Yeah, right. They're vintage ones. What's wrong with them?
I did a change. Nothing. And then this is what the back looked like.
Yeah, I mean, usually, so I can see it. I was gonna say I can see the lines now. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they all have that.
Mm-hmm.
And they're consistent and they're even, and nothing about this yells at me except I'm wondering if they're like, I don't know why anybody would replace vintage tuners with vintage tuners.
Wait a minute.
It does.
Let me ask you a question. The guitar plays all right, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's 2013.
Yep.
Why are you concerned if it's all original?
I guess I shouldn't be. Because it's a 2013.
Jim. All right, listeners, everybody, audience.
Yeah. See, this is where,
This is where me and Jim are going to get real for a second. Jim, you're not a fucking guitar collector. Stop it.
I know.
Stop it. You are worried about things that guitar collectors worry about. Stop it.
Crazy.
Stop it. Because no one is going to care. Like, it's a 2013 Telecaster. It's never going to be worth more than a 2013 Telecaster. Period. Even because it's authenticated or not. It's not a collector's guitar. There's a million of those out there. So that's all I'm saying. Like, it's not worth it. Because this ain't the 1950s when they only produced, a few hundred guitars a year of a specific model. This is 2013 where they probably made 20,000 of those. So yeah, I listen to our viewers, listeners, whatever media you're following this on. If you're buying a modern guitar that's not like numbered and serialized and special or only given to a select group of people, you're not buying a collector's instrument. Stop it. There's no such thing. And even the numbered ones, that's just bullshit too. Like, realistically, it would have to be a very special thing to become a collector's guitar that really is going to go up in value the way that, 57 Strats and 61 Strats have gone up. It's just not, realistically, it's just not going to happen. So there's just too many guitars made today, and there's not enough demand for the instrument. It's unfathomable to me that we have a guitar economy right now where these guitars are getting into the $200,000 and $300,000 price bracket, because most of the people who own them are the people that have money, and when they die, they're going to end up being sold for cheaper than they bought them for, because nobody else has got money to afford that shit. So they're only worth what people can pay. That's it. Anyway, moving on. We're gonna, that segment over there on the side that says it's David Jaded. We're getting there. Yes. The answer is yes. Before we even get to the segment, probably. Let's go on to the Gearfest segment here. The segment is called "Wait, that was Gearfest," and it's supposed to be said just the way I did, the right inflection. So, Jim, you were watching some of the coverage because you sent me some stuff this morning.
Yeah.
So we knew Gearfest going into this thing was going to be dicey at best. When I found out they weren't doing it in person, I was kind of surprised, and that was not even the half of it. They invited many influencers to go to the thing, which is fine. They went to Sweetwater Direct. I don't even know if they had booths or anything there, but they did have, it looked like they did, because I saw video of them like setting up booths for vendors and whatnot. And I was like, why? Especially when I saw what they actually did. So my assumption was they would be encouraging the content makers to live stream and stuff during the event, to actually do event coverage. Like, they would be interviewing people, and they would have coordinated with these people that they were probably paying, right? Mm-hmm. To produce content that would be available during the days of Gearfest, right? Which is Friday and Saturday. Jim, how much content came out about Gearfest between Friday and Saturday on YouTube? Because I saw a whole lot of fucking nothing.
I saw 2 live streams.
Oh, well, we're gonna the Sweetwater live streams aside, okay? That's
not the Sweetwater. Talking about two YouTubers who would normally live streamed, and one of them, each one had a YouTube channel from another join them, and they Sweetwater didn't bother setting up a guest network. So these guys had to use their cell phones to punch out, and the audio and video was horrible.
In Fort Wayne, Indiana. They're using 5G internet on a cell phone. What a fucking disaster.
Yeah. So that was almost laughable, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I could see that. That sounds correct.
Yep. And so there were a lot of things about it that I was like, okay. This is kind of, not good. And nothing. Here's the hard part. Nothing about like, oh, look at us, we took the test, or look at us, we're hanging out at Sweetwater. Look at us, we're hanging out together like we
they
were.
Should have had them all go down the slide, run after the other, and video. I mean, this is the bonkers shit of this. Like when Thoman did it right. They had everybody come over and they were doing all this content. It was being released and they were there for more than 2 days. And it was like, so there was an opportunity to edit and stuff and do things during the day so they could get content out while it was going on. And and there was content that was released afterwards too. But for me, I was like, I don't understand what this is about anymore. And I think that's where I want to go with why Gearfest kind of failed this year. First off, if you don't know, like if you haven't been following the show super long time, we've gone to Gearfest as a show, and Jim hasn't been there, but I've gone twice, right? And we went right. with people from the show audience, and it was a great experience. The 2 years that we were able to attend in person, that was the last year would have been 2019. And then, of course, COVID hit, 2020, 2021, they went offline. And then 2022, they balked. So because they couldn't predict the future, they decided not to have Gearfest. Now, that's the official word. But here's the real talk. This is what I'm going to put forth in this segment specifically. Gearfest didn't have it because they didn't want to have it. They have now, Chuck is no longer in control of the organization. His second in command, although he's a good guy, probably is at the mercy of the board of investors. And so it seems like they decided to just turn this into a marketing blitz and not really actually do a Gearfest. Now, I have friends who work for Sweetwater. My rep is a friend of mine. I don't want to throw anybody specifically under the bus. And I want to make it very clear that there's a lot of good people that work at Sweetwater, just like there's a lot of good people that work at Guitar Center. I've got friends that work there too. And I'm going to be completely blunt, but I think this direction for the company is going to really hurt their place in the market space. And I think that they figure that well, you have to come to us so we can just do whatever the fuck we want. And personally, I'll be voting with my wallet and giving my money over to people that I do approve of. And don't treat me like garbage and expect me to just accept marketing like this. It's kind of messed up given your company's history. So like, I don't look corporate America, right? Like it's a corporate company. It's always been a corporate company. And I want to make that very clear. Like I've been very pro Sweetwater on the show, but I was pro it because I felt like even though it's corporate America, I'm getting the mom and pop experience in a lot of ways by being able to have candid conversations about my needs with somebody who actually understands them in order to get the equipment that I need. But what this looks like to me is that they're sort of doing an about face on that. And it's like the whole reason that Gearfest is great, right, is it takes me or a show listener or somebody else, some Joe Schmo who plays in some bar band, can go to Gearfest and they can experience pretty much everything the industry has to offer. And they get to meet the actual people who designed it and have candid conversations with the people that work for those companies. People like Randall Smith or Josh Scott or Robert Keeley. And you can ask him, like, hey, this thing doesn't work with my pickups very well. Is there anything I can do? Like, is there anything you would recommend? Or you got anything else coming out that is gonna, sit better for that? Like, those are the kinds of relationships that Sweetwater was facilitating right there. Was like, oh yeah, right. Now I get to meet Paul Reed Smith and tell him your fucking finish sucks, man. Like, I'm having problems with it. I know people would be like, what? I would never do that. I would. I actually would, because I'm frustrated. Granted, I'm still gonna keep the guitar. I'm gonna play the shit out of it. But it's like one of those things where now I don't have that face-to-face interaction. I don't have the connection that draws you into buying these products from these companies. And right. It was done And it was not only done that way, but instead of like even just having them address us with little live stream clips from YouTube, like from each of the vendors, like a virtual booth experience, they like just cut them out of it completely. It was like, okay, so let's just get these YouTube guys, these influencers in here. You really care about them more than the gear companies. No, we don't. I don't give a shit who's playing the stuff I buy on YouTube. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. Because you know what? If you go down that rabbit hole, you end up buying shit you don't like. Right? And that's what it boils down to. Like, if anything, I can expound this for our listeners and for our audience until I am blue in the face. I'm still, I assure you, I'm white as a piece of paper. But I can say this until I can no longer breathe, which is that stop buying stuff because someone said it's good. Try it yourself. Like, and if you do buy something sight unseen, expect to sell it because you don't know. You know, don't overpay because you might end up selling it. I can't say that enough because I'm an avowed gear junkie and I buy shit and I sell it all the time. In fact, I got stuff on my table over here that's going out the door soon.
Yep.
So, listen, like this whole thing with putting YouTube celebrities, because that's what these people are, right? Like you can call them influencers, right. Call them whatever the hell you want. They're influencers in that they market products for companies and they never say an ill word about anything.
Right.
Or very rarely. When it becomes a news story that somebody didn't like a product, it was like the only product this year that they hated. Like that's not appropriate. Like there's got to be more than that because like my whole thing is I don't care if it's cool. Like, is it in my rig? Because that matters, right? Like if you say it's cool, fine, but where are you using it? You know, a katana's right. Cool, but you know what I mean? Like, you're starting to get the point here. So, what really pissed me off, and you can watch because I'm in some of the footage for the live streams on YouTube. I was kind of trolling them because what really pissed me off was they sent out the thing like, oh, Gearfest starts like in 20 minutes, or a Gearfest starts today, and then I like, oh, it's going to start at 9 a.m. because I thought it was going to be like last year. No, they did an hour and a half worth of content from Sweetwater themselves per day over 2 days instead of like 16 hours is what they normally do, which is why I'm like, yep. You're serious, right? Like this is how we got screwed. Like now I'm like, okay, so how are you going to give that back to the customer in terms of like the person that was anticipating having this experience, right? Like, and I know there's no actual financial transaction there, but there's like mental debt. It's like now you have to make up for the fact that you don't have the friendly face of like, yeah, we're showing you this stuff because we want you to be aware of it and whatnot, and like to walk you through how things work or to talk about the role of, a composer in something or whatever. Like, because if you ever watch their educational content from the previous Gearfest years, it's great. I mean, you see stuff that like, okay, so listen, you can watch Marty Music and whatever else on YouTube and learn songs, but this kind of education is like a master class in like how you conduct business in the music industry, or what an engineer does during the day when there's nothing going on, or how do you score a film? That was one of the things I watched, and I was like, huh. There's a lot of interesting information there. And so it's gear focused, right? Because it's a gear place. But for the most part, like, I think that's one of the big gaps that a lot of musicians, especially outside of guitar world, outside of the guitar sphere, is like, they don't know how to use their gear half the time. Like, that's what I've learned from like, and then that's not so much true with synth players, but like, okay, sax player, right? He doesn't know how to use a chorus pedal. He doesn't know how to, right. And he might have one. He might be using one for something, like, especially if he's into avant-garde jazz or whatever, but like, doesn't necessarily means that he doesn't know what to explore in terms of, other options that are available to him. So, him or her for that matter.
Right.
But what? I mean, yeah, there's some personal affronts here, right? Because we've covered Gearfest before, and like, I wasn't asked to go. And that's not what's driving this conversation, I assure you. I was frustrated, but I was like, nah, it's a professional thing, and I'm not worried about it because frankly, we don't have a big enough audience for it. And the farther I can get away from the gear community right now, in terms of like being an influencer, the better. I think it's a toxic level thing, and we'll get to that in the jaded section. But
yep.
So, Jim, you watch content. What was your takeaways? You watched some stuff. I mean,
yeah. So there were two live streams. I watched Phil McKnight's live stream, and 60 cycle hum on it, and I watched Pete Thorne, who had Tim Pierce on it. And what I took away from it was, I hate to say it, but high five and white guys. It really was so blatantly obvious to me that there was absolutely no attempt, and I'm not saying like a forced, like a lot of companies, hey, look at us, we're diverse, but I was like, holy crap, we are a terrible community as far as this diversity thing goes, number one.
Well, we are, though. I mean, that, like, yeah, I'm not going to...
It's true. I'm not going to pull punches.
Yeah.
But I figured, okay, where's the footage from the floor? Where's the footage from the thing? You said they're like... Because I was there... so I was last there in 2011, 2012. And physically. And it wasn't as big as it is now.
Yeah, I don't even think they had the retail store back then.
Yeah, my offices were down the street a ways. And I had gone by there, and I had bought gear from them online, but the two things didn't like mesh because too early on.
Yeah.
We're talking 10 years ago now. It just didn't correlate to me, and I didn't care. To be honest with you, I didn't care much about tracking down.
I think the internet has now made this like a big deal, right? Because now you're like so invested in the companies you're buying from and who runs them, and like the fact that I know that Chuck Sirach was the CEO of Sweetwater is just kind of mind-boggling to me. Because like, why do I care? I don't give a shit who's at the top, you know?
Right. And so I was thinking, okay, well, okay, what's going on with these, with these things? But what I got was there was none of the both of them were from a little room, probably smaller than this, okay? And I'm in 11 by 11 room, and it was like they gave them a closet, said, okay, go in that closet. There wasn't even a Sweetwater. The guys from 60 Cycle and them had to go get a Sweetwater banner to stick it behind themselves. And I thought to myself, what's that banner? What is that thing in the background? And as a guitar player, I didn't know what it was. And they were in a room full of amps and all this other stuff. And I you know what I found out? I cared less about Sweetwater than I did going in. And that was really bad because I should have cared more. But they were like, we did a video on the 55-point inspection. Where is it? Where shouldn't you have done that live? Shouldn't that be instead of
they should have taken the whole group of them on the tour together and live streamed it.
Right. And there isn't any of that.
No. Which means this was just an influencer event. Like, we get to show off to them so that they can go push us.
That's right.
Which is like, that's so disingenuous. That's not what Gearfest was.
No. And like, it sucks. It literally sucks.
Yeah. Because so Gearfest,
none of it.
This shows that basically Sweetwater's become Guitar Center. It's basically
that's what I said was coming.
That distance between, it's like, that was the thing. That was the difference between Sweetwater and Guitar Center before. I had the same lead times to get products. I had the same relationship with somebody to be able to buy things. The only advantage that Guitar Center had was I maybe could get it in a local retail store if it was available, which most of the shit I buy, they're not going to have in a retail store anyway. But at least that, like, that was always this distant relationship, right? Like, I'm holding my hands in depth. I mean, I know we're not in VR, but, like, depth.
Right.
Now, Sweetwater was way closer to you in the sense that, like, they wanted you to feel like you were buying from a mom and pop and you were being taken care of, and that they take care of their employees and all of this. And, like, that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. With this, it's very clear that distance is growing quickly, because for them, it was not about trying to provide the same sort of Gearfest experience that they had in the past virtually, because they couldn't do it in person, which is why I don't accept that that's really what this was. This was a way for them to pivot and create Gear University from Thomann, because we know that's where they're headed. They're going to go toe-to-toe with Thomann. That's exactly where they're headed, and I don't give a flying fuck what Phil McKnight thinks, because that's where they're going. And if you think he's right, go watch his channel. What are you doing here? I'm here to tell you, they just did the same goddamn event that Tomann's been doing, okay? Except they kind of half-assed it because they only did it over 2 days, whereas Thomann was like a week. And Thomann flew people from all over the world to Germany to see it, right? So, like, they get the lavish treatment. But again, that's another influencer thing, right? Like, so now I get to idolize these influencers because they're the jet set that gets to be flown all over the world to do this stupid thing where they're going to create content to sell products. It's stupid. That's what it is. And you know what? Honestly, like, this is a societal thing that I'm going to point out. But, like, us as a culture, and I'm talking about pretty much everybody who's consuming influencer content, which is basically the entire culture at this point. You realize there are two things in this world that like are very subversive. And number one is, like, when you have independent media, which I know everybody says, oh, but no, that's better, because then, listen, the problem is independent media doesn't have anybody to answer to, right? So they can say whatever's salacious, and we've seen that play out. We know what that's looked like over the last couple of years. If you live in the States, you do, at least anyway. And then in this case, we have the same thing going on, but it's advertisers, and we have independent advertisers now. That's what influencers are. And so you have these people that have literally no scruples about what they're doing, who are getting paid to do this fun stuff, like going over and doing this. And everybody thinks, like, there must be an authority because these companies are backing them, like Sweetwater, for example. But the reality is they don't care. They just want to see a high subscriber count. Like, that's really what this is all about, right? Like, a high subscriber count. And actually, I'm always been the person that would look at somebody who has a lower subscriber count as being more reputable, which I know that's kind of tooting my own horn, because our show doesn't have a huge subscriber count. But I'll be honest, like, you get more, we're being genuine with you. Like, let's just put that out there. I'm not trying to make your day any better or worse. I'm just being real. So I don't know. I don't have any problem with the influencer side of things, but I think it should have been a separate event. And I think they should have just not done Gearfest this year and just canceled it and said, let's not masquerade this existing event as something else, because this wasn't a festival. This was a marketing scheme. Granted, I know that Gearfest in general really is a marketing scheme to begin with, but, like, it was well veiled. Let's put it that way. And there was enough collateral benefit that you put up with the marketing to go and interface with people that you would never get the chance to have a conversation with about things that are important to you.
Yep. I get to this almost hypocritical feeling, sales force thing, where all these influencers run to not Toman, the American Toman, Sweetwater, and grab up the opportunity to get into, hey, look at us doing this. And at the same time, being the same people who go, you should go to your mom and pops. I mean, it's like,
yeah.
You're either. It just has this.
Doesn't Ryan Burke have a series where he goes around to local mom and pops and takes a look at their guitars and talks about the store and like features the store?
I know Rhett Shull does.
Isn't that really fucked up that both of them were at Gearfest? Repping basically Sweetwater, even though Sweetwater's basically destroying mom and pop business along with Guitar Center.
They're just as bad as Guitar Center as far as that goes. Don't just because
I would argue they're even
the
worse
Amazon
at this point.
While Guitar Center's Walmart.
I would actually, as far as small business is concerned, I would argue they're actually worse now because they have higher sales numbers,
right?
Which says that they have confused people into treating them like a mom and pop business to boost sales.
That's
numbers.
What I was going to say.
Because we actually
definitely
one thing about the music business and the gear side of it, Guitar Center side, right? Is that in general, musicians have always sided with the mom and pops, which like I would say in general, right? Like people that have, and I don't mean like the person buying their first guitar, but I'm saying like somebody's been doing this for a while. They generally know the cool places to go to get the stuff they need. And they know where to take their stuff to get it worked on. And they figure it out. Like they talk to people and they get information. So I just think it's interesting that like our sphere of influence here is very clued into the small business promotion thing. Do you know what I mean? Whereas other schools of thought are not as clued into those things, I guess. So like the computer industry, they don't give a fuck. Like if you're a gamer enthusiast, right? Like you're building PCs and stuff yourself, you don't give a fuck who you're getting your parts from. It could be Joe's computer store in the corner, or it could be CDW, or it could be, and it's not gonna be CDW. Let's just be real. But it might be Tiger Direct's gone now. See?
They all go the wayside and they all get replaced. No company is forever.
Right.
So anybody who thinks Guitar Center is forever and is going to be always the evil demon that they all get to demonize, that's not going to be forever.
I mean, it's like so you got the Walmart of guitars, you got the Target of guitars, and I really thought Sweetwater was the Target, and I'm not really sure anymore. I think they're started turning into the Myers of guitar. For anybody's really admire.
I mean, so again, I have a problem. I have a problem with removing the player or the.
It's not direct interaction anymore, and it makes the assumption that the end user actually identifies with the YouTuber or influencer people, which.
That's right.
I don't. I mean, if they haven't been clear on this show, and I'm friends with some of those guys, so like, but I don't identify like when I'm picking out gear. I'm not watching, and you guys know I know Ryan. Like I'm not watching Ryan's channel and going, man, what should I buy? I might reach out to him directly because I know he knows shit, but like, they don't match my taste. They don't match my ability level. Which I'll put my money where my mouth is at the end of the episode here. So.
Not even close to your ability level.
I don't know if I go that far, but like
I'm just putting it out there. Knowing you and having heard their playing and you're playing, that's not. And I don't think anything
it just means I'm after different stuff.
Competition.
I'm just saying I'm after different stuff because I don't play the way they do. Right? That's
and
all
I'm
I
not
mean.
saying it's a competition that you're. He's so much better because of that. No, I'm just saying that those are two different things. Somebody playing punk surf is not worried about being able to do legato lines the way you do, or the sweep picking and anything else. Not a whole lot of that. But then again, you aren't going to be sitting there doing Hawaii 5-0 from the Ventures. I mean, that's not your thing. And even though you might think, oh, this sounds pretty good, there's like when I try to play the blues, I sound about as bluesy as my chameleon over here. I don't sound bluesy at all, but I know that, and I know that there's no genuine blues coming from me, so that feel is not there. So I can get close and I can make it sound okay. But I grew up on country and pop. So I know that pop and country are going to be my thing. It's not going to be metal. It's not going to be classical. It's not going to be jazz. It's going to be country and pop.
Look, I mean, I want to make it really clear that there are certain influencers specifically who like sort of suit my style more. And yeah, I would be more inclined to watch their videos and go, yeah, it sounds good. Like, because I know that they're sort of after the same things I am. And some of those guys, one of them's RJ Ronquillo.
Yep.
I mean, not that his style is like mine, but like he tends to be after dynamics and things like that. And then Pete Thorne is another guy, and his playing style is probably more up my alley. But he's, I say that, but it's like, how granular do you want to get when you talk about playing styles? He likes Van Halen. I like Van Halen. Like, let's just leave it at that, right? So, like,
where I'm more along the lines of what a Tim Pierce or even not Tom Quayle. Who's the guy that used to work for Reverb, and then he famously, when Reverb went
Andy.
out, Andy. I've
Pro Guitar
got
Shop.
More of that.
Andy from ProGuitarShop.com.
That's it, Pro Guitar Shop. And so that's more of what the style I go for, where I'm probably closer to early Angus Young than
but so like that's the point, right? Like, so like when you see, I don't really want to name names about, and I hate to say it because I feel really, really bad now that I've said that, like, yeah, I play better than Ryan or whatever, and it's just different genres, different strokes, different folks. But like there are, and I won't call anybody out, but there are people who specifically like were at Gearfest who are not good players. And for me, it's like watching your content's like nails on the chalkboard. I don't give a shit what you think about gear because you don't know how to use it anyway. And that's, so like, I know for a fact that one of the people that's at the event has a long history of recording gear demos with their amp, like basically off volume wise. And then saying, talking about dirt pedals, for example. And you go, wait a minute. How the hell can you talk about a dirt pedal without your amp turned up? Because you have no idea what it sounds like in a venue. No idea what it sounds like on the stage. And I actually said this to somebody today. I said, I said there's a big difference between hearing something like at home or in a store or in a shop versus hearing it on a stage. And there is. Because even just how it sits in a mix with a band is like different than how it's going to sit at home. We all know that.
Yep.
So anyway, we got to do something about YouTube video quality. Like our video is great, but man, the sidebar is hard to read tonight. I don't know whether it's just because the bitrate encoding is shit or what. So I'll have to read up on that because I may be able to actually improve that. Apologize for anybody who's watching this.
That is kind of weird because it does look like the sidebar came out of a 90s video game.
I'm okay with that aesthetic, but it's just it's hard to read. It's not very accessible.
Right.
All right. So I think we've done this to death. Like Sweetwater bad, Guitar Center bad, Mom and Pops maybe good depending on which one. Like that.
I don't want somebody to go. Jim
I'm joking. I'm joking.
I just think that there is.
I don't hate them. I'll still buy stuff from them.
Right. Same here. I'm not gonna. Somebody would say, "Well, Jim, you just bought something from Sweetwater or whatever." I'm like, oh.
But I'll buy it from somebody else first.
Right. And so I'm a little bit on the hesitant side of
I'm putting a wrist brace on, so if you're wondering why there's Velcro on the ice.
And so, but what I don't understand, I guess for the most part, is that there's this. How do I say it? There's this pullback. First of all, Mom and Pops will never be great. They'll be good, but they'll never be. I shouldn't say great.
They just don't have the selection.
Right. When I was watching a South Park episode, and the kids from South Park needed specific color shoes and so on and so forth, and they go to the mall, and of course when they go to the mall, it's like there's this jungle, and it's like these things come out, and they're like, you can, yes, we sell shoes, and it's like, but they didn't have their size, or they didn't have their color, or they didn't have the shoelaces they need. They didn't have all this stuff, so they said, well, I'll just get it on Amazon. They got it on Amazon in seconds. The point was that when you have these specific needs, when you have this specific desire and want,
that's what you do. Is you go online now because they don't carry it in the store.
That's right. So we have the world at our fingertips.
Mode of retail destruction. I mean, distribution for a long time.
Right. Well, so. Sears's catalog was meant to fill that void, and Montgomery Ward and all these other ones, and so these are not new things. It's just a different way. It's like the Who said. It's the old boss same as the new boss same as the old boss or whatever.
All right, we're switching topics. So
yeah, is David jaded?
Yeah. This was probably not the best way to think of this topic. I was looking for something salacious, but
yeah, I think it works.
Just a minute ago. Just a minute ago, like, so everybody knows, like, if you've been listening to the show for any length of time, you know that my opinions on certain things in this industry have changed quite a bit. I used to be quite an idealist. Right. I used to think things like Sweetwater was great because at least they provided some of the mom and pop experience to people who couldn't get to mom and pops because they're out in the middle of nowhere. I used to think that Guitar Center was the spawn of Satan, and now I'm kind of just like indifferent. I don't like it, but I don't really hate it either. It's just something that exists. I have gone from owning guitars like Kiesel to dumping them because I can't stand the owner, when I said that I really didn't care in the beginning, and I usually don't. I have now said I probably will never buy a Fractal because I don't like Cliff. There have been all these things I've flipped on gear-wise. And that's the tip of the iceberg, right? So, like, I know, was it 2 years ago, we did an episode, Jim, where I said, it might have been 3 years ago now, where I said I didn't like John Mayer, and I don't like Jack White, and some other people. And, like, you know what? To be honest with you, I don't listen to their records. It's not the first thing I'm gonna put on, but like, I can appreciate it now. I've had a couple of show listeners reach out to me and basically like explain to me some things, which sometimes I feel is like you're talking to me like I don't know this already. Like, but other times it was like, okay, yeah, all right. But I have learned a lot in my travels for the show, and also just like becoming an actual musician, as opposed to when we started the show, I was a weekend warrior. I'm not even a weekend warrior.
Right.
And now, like, look at me. I've been 2 bands, one of which I'm basically leading along with my co-writer, and then I've got cover band. I would never do covers, Jim. Remember? I was like, I don't want to do covers. That's not my thing. Now what am I doing? I'm doing folky bluegrass covers, country rock covers of top 40 hits. It's like, what the hell happened? And it doesn't make me like them anymore. But I also like, I just feel like there are other things where now I just turn my nose up. I'm like, I don't want to do that anymore. For example, so I've seen Yngwie, twice now on the show since we started the show, and I'd never seen him live before, and I'm over that. Like, I still like his tone on the early records, like the first 3 records, but other than that, I'm like, who cares? Like, it's kind of over, and it has nothing to do with his attitude. I know people like hate his attitude and whatever, and I think it's just him being Swedish and people not being able to understand a language gap there. That comes from actually the Boss Reps, who I met at Gearfest, and talked a lot about their relationship with him, which I thought was interesting. I have changed quite a bit, but I also think now I'm like, I don't care what boutique company it is. Okay, so if it's got a feature set I like, that's great. But like I don't care what company it comes from. The only time I care is when I have a fundamental problem with giving the asshole that's going to make money off of it money. Which there are brands that you guys don't know about, those of you that are listening and watching, that you don't know about, that I like don't want to really pay their owner because I don't like him. I think he's a dick, or him or her is a dick, and it's like I'm just not going to do that. So like even this pickup simulator, I'm going to throw a little bit of shade here. Like, I ordered this 3.5 weeks ago, and it's an interesting little unit, right? It's literally probably just, I haven't taken the back off. I think it's just a transformer connected to a pot, but, and a switch, but, with, different taps on it. But, I ordered it 3.5 weeks ago. They said like allow 6 days for build, and it didn't ship. And I was like, what the fuck? So I didn't want to be a jerk because I know it's a small company. So like I waited and waited and waited. And I finally, like last week, I was like, what the hell? Like, so I reached out to him. I was like, you guys got status on this? Like, if you don't have parts or whatever, it's fine. I just wanted to know, like, if it was coming in anytime soon. And then instead of writing back to me, I got a shipping confirmation that night. I'm like, really? So in other words, I just had to reach out to light a fire under your ass. Like, it makes me wonder if they saw my email. And that's why I said, am I jaded? Am I to this point now where like I'm not excited by anything? Welcome
especially
to the from club. The equipment world. Like, I don't care who makes what. I don't get into the whole like personality thing of builders. Like, why so many people think Josh Scott's a cool guy. I mean, I assume it's because he's into the same stuff that you are, but like, I just don't like. I don't know him. I've met him. I don't know him. I have feelings of indifference. Like, I don't. Just because he's a cool guy doesn't mean I want to buy his stuff. He makes some good pedals. That makes me want to buy his stuff.
Right.
That's basically what it boils down to, right? Like, good product. But then again, there are people that I'm still like, fuck you, I'm not buying from you.
I'm in the welcome to the club category. So when I look at the gear industry at this point, and I've been saying this. Matter of fact, before the Sweetwater thing, I was like, I could not care less. And no, it was NAMM.
Yeah, we were talking about NAMM.
I could not care less about what was coming out, because it's like, who cares? I mean, and I think part of it is because I have a sound I like, so I'm not chasing anything. I'm not chasing a new tone. But I also think, I say as I've got a Telecaster sitting beside me, which may or may not stay here.
You're keeping it. I'm calling it.
I don't know.
I'm gonna talk you into it.
Yeah, we'll discuss it after the show. And matter of fact, we'll record it, but we can leave that up for folks to watch later. But I got to be honest with you. It's like so I bought. There's another thing I got. Let me show you this. I got to grab the guitar because otherwise you can't see it. So.
Yeah.
See what it says, right?
Yeah. You got your name on it. I think you told me you were buying those. Get your headphones back on.
Oh, what's that?
I said, get your headphones back on.
Yeah. So
you told me you were buying customized nameplates, and I just shook my head. I was like,
I just got the one, but the thing is, that's right. That's number one, and so I got it. I got a thing. I mean, it's I don't remember if it was $20 or $30. It's not important, but the important part is that it was something where I said, you know what, I'm going to get this item and put it on there, but it's a statement to the fact that that's really the guitar I picked up. I mean, I can look around in all this room, and that's a guitar I pick up. And when it comes to a gig, I have to actually talk myself out of taking that one to play as the only one and play one of the other ones. And so that's the hardest part of all this, is that I actually just like playing that through my Kemper into the PA.
So you don't have a problem with, when you go over to your wall and you have to decide between two gold tops, which one you're going to take?
Nope.
That was me just totally being an asshole.
I know. It's so jaded because, look, I know that to get rid of any of them would be dumb because to get them back would be difficult, right? Mm. And just like what you were talking about, it's not very often I find a Telecaster I like. The last time I found a Telecaster I liked was a long time ago.
You buy a guitar because of its parts, like how it plays. Yeah. You don't buy a guitar because it's genuine. I know people get like caught up in that shit, but I would buy a parts caster, and if I really liked it, I wouldn't have cared how much I paid for it because I really liked it. Whether it's authentic or not. And that authentic thing only applies to Gibson anyway. They trademarked the word authentic, didn't you hear?
Yeah, that you can't use.
They're going to start suing people for saying the word authentic.
You pay a royalty fee for that. What was the thing? I think it's just like, all right, look, my number one is a bastard child, right?
Yeah.
And God knows if they fucked up the finish. What else?
No, it's not. No, Jim. If you sold that to somebody else, they'd probably tell you it's not authentic. Because they'd be like, exactly right. But that's my point. You're doing the same thing with this freaking Telecaster sitting over here.
I mean, that is literally the funny part of that whole thing. And I can't tell you how many guys I know, because being in Gibson forums, and you've probably read this too, they'll get a Les Paul, and the first thing they do, I don't care if it's a 79 or a brand new Murphy Lab, aged in the wool, $12,000, blah, blah, blah. They change pickups.
Yeah, we're going to talk about pickups. That's the next section.
And, yeah, you're right. I jumped, and I didn't even see that, to be honest with you. And it's like, but that the pickup isn't the point is, I see them change, like, my friend has a 59 Les Paul. I love it. And it's got changed out bridge, changed out tuners, changed out all kinds of stuff that he changed out on it. And I'm like, well, I guess maybe that's why I like it better, because it's so it is the fact that it's a bastard child that makes it a little special, And I think that's what I find in every one of them. And I've said this before. I know that I've got flaws in every single guitar I own, every one of them.
They all do.
And they're flaws of mine.
Every guitar has something that's weird about it. I mean, that Warmoth Strat I put together from parts. It has a rather sizable gap between the neck and the body. It's we were joking about it because
I was shimmed the side of a deck of cards.
You could actually probably stick a card in there. It's one of those things where I asked him when we put it together, I was like, I don't know if you can even do anything about that. I mean, I've heard some people put wood putty in there in excessive layers. Right. But I was like, for my personal assessment, the neck doesn't shift. So like my other neck didn't fit in the pocket right either. So I'm like, it has to do with where the bolts are coming through the body, I guess, and probably there is some pain in the neck pocket. But it's like, if you bolt it down and it doesn't shift, I don't care about the gap. But if there's a gap, then we need to do something about it. And they actually bolted it in. They pulled on it real good, and they said, it seems to be stable. So, but that's a flaw in that guitar. And then of course PRS has a shitty finish, which I'm sure. I know Pat doesn't listen, but I'm sure if he listened, he'd be like, "That doesn't." yes, it does. Yes, it does.
And Paul Reed Smith has had to admit more than once that their finish
had
sucks.
Finish problems forever. It's not that their finish sucks. It's just they want a hard finish, and and they're willing to have a beat up guitar to do it. My S500 has some minor flaws. It's got like a dark spot in the body that's weird from a visual standpoint. And it has a string tree with staggered tuners. Why in the fuck did they ever put staggered tuners and then a string tree? Yeah. It's like, what? So, in the interest of not having a hole in my headstock, I just leave the string tree on. So, I mean, all my guitars have flaws. Like, it's just a thing. It's a thing that happens, and it's not a big deal. I think we learn to live with them. I don't think we dwell on that stuff. I do know some people that get really, really obsessive about it, but I don't think anything comes off the line perfect. I just don't think it's possible.
Right. I don't think so either.
So, I guess what I'm asking is like, I don't think this is necessarily a bad worldview, and me being jaded, right, about all of this, right? And so that's why I want to echo for our listeners is it's fine to get excited about this stuff, but like temper your expectations, and you're going to be happier at the wallet for sure, but also like I think you'll grow more as a player, because I'm still doing rhythm training every day. I'm still videoing it. And I'm going to do some comparisons at the end to see how much I've grown. I know that there's been improvement because I can hear improvement just switching between patterns and stuff. But like, if I was still distracted with learning about Boutique Brand X, I wouldn't be doing that. You know what I mean? I'd be spending 8 hours a day on Sweetwater. I'm rarely on Sweetwater now during the week. I think I go to Reverb just to check and see if something's sold. I just don't care about that stuff. Like, if I need something because I'm working on a project or something, like all of this, I just buy it and then we do it. And then, like, for example, this guy came because I can't use another pedal I already have with the new guitar, so this was a solution. I don't really, like, I'm not even looking at, alternatives to pedals I already own or anything like that. So, just don't care about it. And I don't care about the YouTube celebrities. I don't care about most popular music. I don't care, like, I to an extent, I do. If somebody tips me off and says there's this great band, you should check them out, like, I'll go watch that. And if I really like them, sure. But, like, for the most part, I really kind of don't care about that either, because I'm to the point in my life where I'm 37 years old and I only have a certain amount of time left to enjoy the things that I enjoy. And so I'm becoming, sadly, kind of a creature of habit. And there are certain things that I always come back to, and I tend to favor those. Every once in a while, I find something new. I found Mastodon a few years ago. Like, that was something I was not aware of, and then, like, I became aware of a couple of the Ghost albums I actually like. I did not like the last two, which is Prequel, and then whatever the last one was. I thought it was trite shit. Yeah, I mean, but that's how my growth goes. Like, I will always go back and I will always listen to Iron Maiden. I will always listen to Led Zeppelin. I will always go back and listen to Jimi Hendrix. He probably should be at the top of that list. Like, if I'm, I want to hear good guitar tones, I throw on Bridge of Sighs, Robin Trower, Day of the Eagle or something, and like, I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with that and being a creature of habit. I do think you should always set aside some time to broaden your horizons a little bit, because how are you going to find out that next album that, is still in rotation, even though I was listening to it 20 years ago when I was in college. So that said, I do think I'm jaded. But I don't think it's a bad thing. And I think more people need to get jaded. And I think we need to sort of like put up the walls a little bit on some of this gear stuff for sure. And specifically when it comes to who's selling to you. I also see, so like another example, we were talking about NAMM and that Soldano solid state head. Like people do this with the companies themselves a lot, where I cannot, and I'm going to say this, and I don't want this to come off the wrong way, but like where people really like, they'd be willing to get into bed with Dave Friedman because they like his stuff and they will buy every single amp he puts out and talk about it until they're blue in the face. And I just don't think a guy that's basically doing the Cuervo mods and stuff is all that great, especially when he's charging you $4,000 for a head. Like, okay, great, wonderful, I guess. I don't know. You know, that's like, people could use a little bit of temperament there. So anyway, I'm also to the point where like I don't judge people for what they play anymore, and I'm kind of just like, sounds good, just do your thing. And I was actually thinking about we had Dylan Talks Tone on recently, and he said, he's like, I'm just excited to see somebody who's doing it, and it's like, yeah, I mean, if you're at a gig or you're at a venue and some guy's playing through an old Fender shitbox solid state amp from the 90s, and you're sitting there going, man, that guy's got some chops and stuff. Like, who cares what the hell he's playing through at that point? Now, I actually think it goes the other way, though. I think if you have a really, like, a lot of money invested in your rig, I saw a guy recently who had, let's just put it this way, he had a $4,000 guitar, he had a $400 amplifier, and he had a $500 amplifier, $600 amplifier. What does the Hot Rod Deluxe go for now? Like 600, 700? He had an HRD, and and then he had a pedal board with about $3,000 for the pedals on it. Because he had a Strymon trifecta. And I'm sitting there going, because I heard him play. Now, just to give you an idea, the other member of his band, the other guitar player, is playing an Epiphone through an Epiphone Les Paul flat top. I don't know which model, through a Spider 2, Line 6 Spider 2. And I'm sitting there going, you're playing with that guy. And then they played, and I was like, you have a lot of money wrapped up in gear. That's all I'm saying. Like, that's all I'm putting out there. Like, I'm more conversed to have that kind of reaction than to go the other way and be like, here's this great player playing through shit. And it's like, man, he sounds like ass, but he can play. Like, I would never think that. I would just be like, the guy can play. Who cares? And I'm just kind of over that side of things to an extent. Now, yeah, definitely I want to sound good, and I hope that other people want to sound good too. And I think most people, if you've got chops, you sound good. It doesn't matter what you're playing through. You figure out how to use it. You figure out how to make it work. So anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about pickups, because you were talking about pickups already. So, I was going to call this section pickup lines, but I thought that was going to be a little too, yeah, that's a little too 1990s. Okay. It was okay in the 90s. I don't know if it's okay now. So I've been having some like real revolutions. I would love to have a revolution in my head.
Yep.
One side of my brain can try to take over the other side, and there will be a coup. Anyway, Jim, so we've had pickup experts on the show. We've had 2 people on here who build pickups, who actually also happen to be friends, which we didn't know at the time when we had them on. And we've had you did a shootout with pickups at one point where you were showing the difference between Gibson humbuckers and PRS humbuckers, and I know at one point you even showed SE humbuckers versus the American PRS humbuckers. And like, so that's what I want to start off with, like comparison and thing. Like, you were talking about people buying, $10,000 Gibson historic 59 Les Pauls and ripping the pickups out. And all right, so we also had a debate one time on the show, eons and eons ago, where somebody said, Fluff, I believe it was Ryan Bruce, said that pickups don't matter, which we roundly said, fuck off.
Wrong.
Yeah. he is wrong. Okay. It just not in his genre of music, maybe.
Right.
But, so I want to preface this and say that, you know, I've got a great set of P90s from Nick Bongers. I have a set to give away that I need to pull out of the guitar. Again, I'm still like, that is happening. It is happening. I have not done it because I have got so much shit going on right now. For me to take an afternoon to take those pickups out is like, it just doesn't happen. I just don't have a free afternoon like that anymore. I'm either building a pedal board, or I'm recording an album, or I'm editing this podcast, or I'm working. So when I get to it, it'll happen. I actually have a set of replacement pickups that Nick wound for me to go into that guitar. They're basically a clone of what we already made, because the ones we made were really freaking good. And so that's why, so I have P90s, right? I have Strat pickups. I don't actually have regular Strat pickups. I do have pickups. I don't have them installed anything. I have the S500, which has got its own unique MFD ceramic bar magnet pickups, with which the secret to those pickups is they actually have a high cut in the circuit, like always on, before you even use them, which I've been contemplating on removing from my guitar because I'm starting to actually like having super intense amount of high end, which is probably not a good thing. And I also have several sets of humbuckers. I got the PRS ones. I've got the Great Lakes guitar pickups humbuckers that are in the Shengzhe, which everybody forgets about that guitar. I know I do from time to time. And then I have the Actives from Fishman. And, you know, so on just a precursory level, humbucker's a humbucker, right? Like, and I know that's actually not true, right? Because I've had dozens of aftermarket pickups. And so I found that a couple really work well for me, from aftermarket companies, and those are the ones I tended to gravitate towards, and they're common ones. So, like, I always hear people talk about the 59, the Seymour Duncan 59. I could give two shits about that pickup. I had a guitar that had one of those in it. I also had a guitar that had a Pearly Gates in it, and they were bullshit. I hated them. Hated those pickups. And I got a set of more period correct PAFs from Nick, and I love those. So that's why I'm like, I actually had two sets from him of those. But that's why I'm like, I'm sort of over it, because I'm just like, everything is a little bit different anyway. You got to find the right pickups for the right guitar. I don't think mass-produced pickups for things like, you know, the PAF style tones are realistic. I think they are made in a lab, and they are made to sound like something that already existed that was more random than anyone realizes. And so that's why I'm kind of like, I'm more, if I'm going to try to do the vintage thing, I'll just go get a set of pickups made. So like, my takeaway, so I'm using the PRS to do a lot of this record, and I'm mixing, and I'm realizing it's a lot of low mids, and it's almost muddy. Those pickups they got a lot of clear in the top end, almost to the point where it sounds like a cocked wah pedal, a lot of resonance, but they have too much low mids. And from what I know from my conversations with Nick, and he would be really proud of me, and I hope he's listening and hope he watches the show and listens, that means they're probably too high output, because that can be construed as mud. And I think he wants to give PRS wants to give them a unique mid-range character that's different than Gibson pickups, because those guitars are supposed to sit somewhere between Gibson and Fender. And so it's sort of like doing exactly that. It sits between a Strat and it sits, but I will say this, I don't think it does the greatest job at being either of those. And I think you would be better to just have a Fender and a Gibson. But of course I'm not really a Gibson guy, so I just kind of like, it's PRS. It sounds like a PRS, right? And I used it, and I'm not mad about the record or how it's going to turn out or anything when I used it. So the reason why I'm bringing this up, right? So like, I'm terrified of active pickups, and I bought Fishman's, right? I don't like the idea of having batteries on stage, more batteries to carry around. I'm usually the guy that lends somebody a battery because theirs goes out, right? I pull out one out of my pocket, say, here, I got an extra. And I literally do carry around batteries in my pockets at venues. That's a thing that happens. So, in fact, I can think the last time that actually did happen. So, backing up, the other thing I don't like about it is that I know there's impedance problems. Okay, so that's why I bought the Happy Valley analog pickup simulator. So there's that's the long and the short of it, right? So like, they have impedance problems, and I use fuzz. Now, outside of fuzz, the impedance thing isn't an issue for me because I can basically figure it out. Like, I'll figure out some way to get something to work. I do have other pedals in my rig that are very esoteric, like the Univibe, which requires some finesse to get that to work with active pickups. Fortunately, the one I have has some different modes, and it has an adjustable buffer, so I can sort of make it work. But getting a box like this that does impedance adjustment sort of fixes that problem too. But then again, think about it. I've already bitched and complained about buying $500 worth of active pickups, and then buying this boutique thing, which is $30, by the way, $40. It's like really inexpensive. Like, that's an extra layer of complexity to your rig, right? But it's also one of those situations where I don't have a perfect assessment because my guitar is HSS. So I have to pick Strat or a humbucker mode, like single coil or humbucker mode, which sucks. It's not ideal. Oddly enough, I tend to favor the humbucker mode even with the humbucker. So, I'm probably going to leave it that way, but I feel like there's all these compromises, right? There is no perfect set of pickups. That's what I'm getting at here. But what I really wanted to do, Jim, I wanted to talk about the special sets of pickups that you've had your hands on that you really, really like, that you wish like were all pickups were basically that pickup. And I know in your case, you're really, really big fan of some specifically, but I'll let you have the floor and kind of discuss some of the ones you like and why.
Well, it's been a hell of a journey for pickups. The Great Lakes guitar custom pickups, they were great. That I used. I did the Telecaster ones, and I did the
Yeah, but you don't have a set of humbuckers.
No. I did the Telecaster ones, and I did what was the first ones I did? Holy crap. They were replacements for another set. But anyway, yeah, I think I only did single coils. And point is, I liked those. Those were good. He was able to take that Telecaster pickup and really make it spank without being so bright it cut your head off, and that was perfect.
It's what you associate with that vintage Telecaster sound.
That's right. A little bit rolled off, and a little bit of that where the tone pot has got a little under it and isn't so bitey. at the top. I also for my I used to have a Telecaster, or I mean a Stratocaster that had a set of JB JB Junior a JB 59. What they call it, Seymour Duncan 59, and that really was a great combination. Was the 59 and the JB, and in the middle I had a Seymour DiMarzio, but they did a great job with the JBJR, which is a stacked humbucker.
I've had one.
Yeah. I loved classic 57s in a SG. I thought that was an SG with classic 57s was a top-notch, perfectly like okay. And you know,
yeah, have you had any pickups where you kind of felt like this was the wrong pickup for the guitar when you got it?
I guess I'm supposed to, this is the 2000s now, I'm supposed to do this thumbs up instead of the OK symbol, because somebody took the OK symbol and turned it into something else. But anyway, they were great.
Well, you know what? Fuck them.
Yeah, I know. And I still don't understand who did it, when, and where, and how many people have done it. But whatever. I'm not going to fight the mob. But in other words, I think they were great. And I don't even know if their letters okay or okay. But anyway, because I don't know how they became all right. But yeah, I love the classic 57s. Sorry, I got caught up in what I was talking about.
Do you think the classic 57s are like the penultimate pickup for you? Like,
I think that they were penultimate,
or the ultimate pickup. I mean, not penultimate, because obviously that would imply there's one more.
Yeah, I think that the classic 57s are a close thing to what I've got in number one, and again, number one doesn't sound exactly like other of the 50 standards. It's just got a smoother roll off on the tone, and in the room it's night and day. So to me, that pickup, it's a Burstbucker. It's just a Burstbucker Pro. Sounds great. But yeah, the classic 57s are great. I got to be honest with you, though, I've had this hankering to try, and I might actually change out that one. Yeah, I might change those out for pearly gates at some point. I might put some pearly gates in there and give it a different kind of quack, a different kind of spank. But it's so difficult because anybody who makes pickups knows no two are exactly alike, right?
Yeah,
and then
I actually, that while that's true, I think the pickup manufacturers now have gotten so good at getting them close enough that they're extremely consistent.
Right,
which is part of the problem.
Right. That's exactly what I was going to say. There's a lot of extremely consistent pickups, and like we have talked about, and there's that guy Jimmy, whatever his name was, that did the thing. The pickup height can have a lot to do with it. You might have a great pickup that just isn't quite low enough or high enough. And I was messing with the pickup configuration on this, trying to get the pickups so that they were even, so that the low and the high were as perfectly even as I could get them to my ear.
So that's a whole other thing too, because yeah, go ahead, but I think we should talk about pickup height for a minute, because
and getting that bite without having too much, and so I was like, and we're talking, folks, I was doing a quarter turn, an eighth of a turn, and going, okay, strumming it, okay, that's a little. Okay, that's back to where I thought it was, just to make sure I wasn't hearing things and the differences, and just finding that sweet spot. It's just like when you're setting your amplifier and you go, okay, that's the breakup. Okay, that's right before breakup. Okay, bring the volume of the guitar back a little bit. Okay, it's clean. Okay, it's dirty. That's the point I want to be. It's the same thing with the pickup. I was looking for that sweet spot where I could set it to where, all right, this is nice and even, and not too like punching the up too hard, but not being so soft that it didn't have anything, and just and that's by your ear. You might do it and go, you know what, I might do, and I'm back to where I was. So, and that's a personal piece of taste. And if you're not willing to move those screws around, well, that's on you.
So it's really weird because I've been really into adjusting my pickup heights lately, like, and I don't know why. I just suddenly was like, oh, now I'm gonna, start worrying about this and think about this more. And like, I was playing with the PRS pickups because I know they're muddier, right? So I figured, well, if I back them off, they're gonna clean up. But if you back them off, then they feel wrong because they're not putting on enough volume to push something. So it's like this whole game of like, and it's not just volume. Like, there's more to it than that because they get more sparkly down there. But if they're not loud enough, they're not ballsy enough for that sparkle to mean anything. What I would really rather have is to have the pickup at the height where I get the output level I want, and then still have that sparkle on top. Which, Nick, if you're listening, we may be doing a project later this year because I've actually been thinking about getting some PRS pickups made up. Have you wind me some pickups to replace what's in my PRS?
I wouldn't be surprised. The one thing about PRS is the perfection. So can we talk about that for just a second?
Well, we know their pickups are really consistent too, so they're all pretty much the same.
Super consistent. And I think that's what removes the quote unquote mojo for some people, is that they're so consistent that
there's no chance of them being the right pickup for the right guitar. It's always the right pickup for all the guitars. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yep.
And that can be down to things like weight. Like,
yep.
If you use the right kinds of wires, the wire that goes on there is very thin anyway. But like, there are different variations, and some of them are thicker and thinner, and then to where that can affect how many windings are on the pickup, and then but generally speaking, you're still gonna have the same amount of copper, but that really just depends on the formula. If you have a super high output humbucker, theoretically it would be heavier than a low output humbucker. Do you know what I'm saying? Like these things all add up to make different things. I actually thought about putting Fishmans in the PRS too. That was another thing that sort of occurred to me, is like, but I don't want to go and do the nightmare of how I had to have the super switch and all that stuff installed and on a PRS. It sounds like a real good time. Plus I would have to have them install the battery somewhere, and that's like a whole other question. How do you do that? Where do you put that on the PRS? But I also think that, like, I would rather have another passive guitar anyway, and since it's dual humbucker, that makes a lot more sense.
Yep.
I could go buy USA PRS pickups, but they're going to be the same thing as the SEs that are in the guitar, which they call S2s, but they're really the same damn pickup. It's an SE pickup that's installed in those, and it's like, so if you shot them out, Jim. You know that 3 years ago or 4 years ago, the SE pickups were basically identical to the USA pickup.
Almost 100% identical.
Yeah.
It was literally hard to tell in the room with feel and with they did not have really any difference whatsoever, which leads me to believe, because that they've actually started making a difference.
No, I don't think they have. I think it's just that it's just my personal preferences on them are kind of waning, and it's mostly in light of the fact that the Fishmans are that good. So what the Fishmans are, in terms of like how they sit in my mind, is like they're the ideal version of each pickup that it emulates. So voice 1 of my bridge is basically like the ideal PAF sound, and then voice 2 is a JB sound. Okay. The jazz bridge pickup, and then the single coils are basically the best, that like the best single coils you've ever heard. Like that's their interpretation of what the best is. I'm not saying they are my best either. I'm just saying that that's what they've tried to accomplish.
Yep.
And I'm kind of at the point right now in my playing, which is kind of funny. I'm very opinionated about certain things, like very, very specific pedals and things like that. But what I wanted to point out was I'm like, I just pick up a guitar and play it. Like, it's the pickup, like, okay, great. I didn't like stop and go, wow, man, this humbucker sounds really good. Like, it's a humbucker and it does the humbucker thing. And I'm like, okay, like, whatever. And then pick up the PRS and I kind of do the same thing. Like, okay, I'm not really sure if I'm supposed to get excited about this or what, but whatever. And, so it is what it is. Like you have whole stock pickups, so I'm sure you're doing the same thing where it's just like, yeah, it sounds fine. It's like, I don't really care at this point. I've never understood.
I literally.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think you're going to say the same thing I'm going to say, which is that I just don't care, and I don't really understand people who get like super into which PAF from which manufacturer they buy. Because in my mind, they're all wrong anyway, because they're not random. So, it's like, I've never played a real PAF, so how the hell would I know?
Right. That's exactly what I was going to say. I wouldn't know the fucking difference.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would think that I would know if it's a good pickup, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
But it's like, I just look for a good pickup out of what I can buy. I'm not going to go buy a Seymour Duncan Zephyr. We talked about that shit. The $500 pickup days are here. Aged magnets. Oh, so weaker ones. That's great. You think I could just, maybe call you up and just get to throw some weak magnets in an existing pickup? Like,
yeah. Again, you get to where there's a few assumptions made when it comes to this whole thing about the pickups and everything else. And the couple of assumptions are this. Number one, there's the assumption, right, that the person creating the pickup knows what the older pickup sounds like.
Yeah.
Number two, that their assumption is based on a rig that would also be familiar with yours. Because no two rigs are like.
Right. Or the guitar that it's going into.
That's right. And so we get number three, my playing style, my setup style, it's going to be the same as theirs. Right? I might have my pickups closer. I might have it further away. I might pick closer to the bridge. You might pick closer to the neck.
So I had that Charvel guitar. Mm-hmm. Right? It was a mahogany body. It was about this thick. It was like really wide. It's like a Les Paul. It was a Strat style body. And it had a pearly gates, and it had two little 59s. Okay?
Right.
So single coil size 59 pickup. And it had a maple top, pearly maple. It was flat. Mm-hmm. And it had a Floyd Rose, and I assume the frets were nickel. I'm pretty sure they were nickel. So whatever. It had an ebony fretboard and a maple neck. Now, why would they put a pearly gates in it? Why do you think that because that was from the factory? Why do you think that they selected a pearly gates for a mahogany guitar with a maple top and an ebony neck? But they forgot about some stuff. Okay? It's got a Floyd Rose, so the magnet spacing is probably wrong. It has And anything with a Floyd Rose is going to be a shredder guitar, right? So not high enough output pickups. And if you know things about Floyd Rose bridges, if it's a licensed bridge, it's not really going to be super loud acoustically. Okay. And I don't think it was a licensed Floyd. I think it was not a license. It was a licensed Floyd. It was not a real Floyd. Okay. Which the time I had it, I didn't really care. I figured at some point I'd probably pull a bridge off, put a new one on it. But so this is what the guitar that had the pearly gates in it that I fucking hated. But like it was because it was the wrong pickup for that guitar. Like that guitar should have come with like hot rails in the neck and like hot rails across it, and like the perfect bridge pickup would have been like a super distortion or something like that. Because that was a shredder guitar. That's what that was. And they put pickups in it that were never going to sound right. That guitar, I don't care if you think it's going to sound like a Les Paul. That guitar is never going to sound like a Les Paul. It was a freaking Strat body. I don't care if it's mahogany and 2 inches thick. It's got a Floyd on it. Like, what were they thinking? And that's the kind of stuff that I see. Like, I put, I have a Steve Vai Gem, right? Or a Gem Jr. And I put, what's the famous, like a Seth Lover in it. And it's like, sounds like ass. No shit! Like, that's not going to go well with a Floyd. Like, what?
Right.
It's not high enough output. The breed pickup that was probably in it before, or Ibanez's version of it, was probably super high output to compensate for the fact that it had a Floyd on it. Like that's the kind of stuff that I'm like, guys, what? Why would you do that? And it's like, oh, this pickup sucks. It's like, for me, it's kind of like, it's right pickup, wrong guitar. And at least for the pearly gates, I played it in a couple of other guitars. I didn't like it in the other guitars either. But that's because, like, there are things like the Seth Lover, and everybody makes some sort of PAF knockoff that's like pretty good. DiMarzio has a couple, and I know Seymour Duncan does, Bare Knuckle does. And it's kind of like, okay, so you go get their version of the same pickup. And actually, Philip McKnight, I know I called him out early in the episode, but he did a thing where he was talking about that. He's basically saying, like, once you know what the spec is, then you just go pick, whichever brand wants to sell it to you the cheapest. It's the same spec. Yep. They're all building off the same recipe, which part of my assessment of that was like, are they really building off the same recipe? Because I know that certain people have asked Nick certain questions about things that he does, because they're kind of like, how do you do this? Because, so obviously there are discrepancies, right? It's not all everybody building the same shit.
Right.
But for me, it's like, I understand what he's getting at. Like, if you want a guitar with Alnico 2 magnets, a pickup with Alnico 2 magnets, you can go buy the mid-output Alnico 2 magnet pickup from DiMarzio or Seymour Duncan, and they're probably going to be very similar. I get that. Like, I see where he's going with that, but we've got a consumer base here who's ripping pickups out of guitars that, like, that pickup that was put in. I'm sorry, but if you have a 59 Historic and it comes with PAFs in it that they made in the custom shop, and you rip the pickups out, I'm gonna be the first one to call you a moron. Like, number one, why did you buy a 59 Historic if you didn't want PAFs? Number two is, if you don't like the PAFs, you really don't like 59 Historics, because that is that sound, right? Like, they put a lot of money and effort into making that sound, to the point where people are spending $10,000 to get one. And you think about it, like, that's kind of asinine. Why wouldn't you just go buy a Les Paul Standard and put the pickups you want in it?
Right. I've never understood. I'm still, like, out there on why someone will spend $6,000. This is the thing I don't get. They'll spend $6,000 or $10,000 on a guitar that's got the wear patterns in it in all these places.
Oh, I've seen him do I've seen him do like the new old stock shit too that way. Right. I mean,
and yet this is the thing I'm getting at. And yet will not look in the direction of the $2,000 model that has the wear pattern that somebody actually put in it because they played it.
Yeah.
Or because they I'm like, I don't get it. Is it because Tom Murphy has some special sauce?
Well, so
I just whatever.
Yeah. I mean, so picking up on that, like, they actually believe, some of these people, because you in your travels you can have conversations with some of these people. They believe that the construction of said guitar is different, and that makes a difference. And they might be right. They might be right. But does it make a $10,000 difference, or like an $8,000 difference, or a $6,000 difference? No.
Right. I don't know.
No. You can put a price on anything. You think it's diminishing returns. That's my point here. We've talked about this on the show a lot. Right. It's diminishing returns.
Many times.
Realistically, going from a $1,000 guitar to a $10,000 guitar is always going to be diminishing returns.
What I don't get is someone will not pay for a guitar that's got buckle rash because a real belt buckle put in scratches on it. Yeah. But they will pay a bunch of money
for somebody who did it with chains.
Down, put it on a thing, and then dragged a bicycle chain or whatever across it, or a dog chain. It's like, and or a real belt buckle sat there. What are you doing? There's a guitar that has real buckle rash, and there's a guitar that has fake buckle rash, and you're going to pay for the fake buckle rash. You are literally the person who goes to the store and pays extra for someone to rip jeans.
I had a conversation with somebody who bought one of the road worn custom shop guitars from Fender, and they were talking about the fact that they loved it because when they had it in for work, they didn't have to care if somebody was going to put scratches and shit in it. And I was just
don't care if somebody puts scratches in.
But wait, think about this. Think about the reality of this. Like, yes, Jim, absolutely. Don't give a shit about your other guitar. But like the whole point is like, here, I'm going to take this thing and I don't care if it gets scratches and shit in it. But it's like, don't you think that would devalue the guitar just as much as it's like those guitars are less. So you take an American Standard off the wall, right? And you go take a big chunk out of the finish, and that guitar on its used value has now gone down $500 or $300 or $300, $400, right? But if you take that relic guitar and then you go put a giant gouge in it, like the value doesn't change because nobody can even tell it's any different.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it is kind of funny. There is like a little bit of intrinsic value to buying the pre-beat up one, because it's never going to go down for getting more beat up.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling to me.
Is that insurance worth the extra $3,000 to have a guitar relic?
And yet you'll hear somebody and they'll go like, okay, like I don't like finish on the back of a neck, right? I'm not crazy about finish on the back of a neck. So what do? I take emery cloth and I take it to the back of the neck. Now, not my Les Pauls. I don't know why, but for some reason, the way Gibson does it is different from Fender. Don't care, don't know, don't care why. I just know what I like the feel of. I like a satin neck Fender. Anyway, if I did that, somebody would say, well, sorry, I need to take $300 off of it. But then they'd go buy a neck that someone else did that to.
Yeah.
That's all they did. They took emery cloth and they rubbed it down. Somebody will go, well, they did it artistically.
Yeah, well.
I was wondering what that was. It was the artistic value of the way that they rub the neck with the thing. I'm not even going to go into what I think that's artistic relation to. I'm just saying that that's not.
I've already moved to the next topic. I'm done. We've had enough of this. Yeah. You're just getting to the point now where it's just getting silly.
Well,
I know you're not wrong.
No, Dylan Talks Stone is about to talk about stickers on a relic guitar. Stickers on a relic. They're relicking them with stickers. It's like a sticker is a sticker, and if you like it or you don't like it, you stick it on there. I mean, I don't get it. Just don't get it. I'm so far over the cliff on this
How
stuff.
long do you think it'll be before somebody actually has a relicking service where like they send your guitar to a famous guitar player who actually plays it and beats the shit out of it?
That's what I would think. Here, send it. Give my guitar to Joe Bonamassa. He plays it on the road for 6 months.
Yeah. I mean, like, that's already happening. That's how he gets a lot of the 50, because he doesn't own all the 59s he has in his possession.
No, right.
Which is a misconception. A lot of people think he owns them all.
Right. A lot of people think he owns more than he does.
But yeah, so he gets them loanered because then that gives the guitar pedigree, but it also, you know, yeah, we've talked about it on the show. There's also reasons why you would want to do that, because it would keep the guitar working.
We've also talked about the fact that when I was young, okay, I can't imagine what it's like now at this age. If I was a 20-something or even a teenager getting my first Les Paul, when I was a kid, first thing you did was make that guitar yours, which may mean sticking a sticker on it. It was like, oh, you know what?
I carved my name in it.
Yeah. Nobody wants to look inside the cavities of my guitars. The point is that when a guitar is mine, it ain't taking the plastic off the thing that makes it mine. I'll tell you that right now. But if one of my guitars gets stolen, it's easily identifiable. But the point is that I'm getting is this: when I was younger, we literally did carve our names into the back of the headstock.
Yeah.
We wrote our name on it. We literally it autographed our own guitars. We did the most ridiculous things, but that's because the guitar is pilferable and it's better to do that. And we did sand down. I sanded down the back of my Strat's neck many times.
I might have good time do my PRS, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and so I don't understand. I just don't understand it. I don't understand the willingness to spend thousands of dollars for somebody else to do that.
Yeah. I mean, customize it. Just customize it.
Customize the guitar you have. You haven't lost that much value. You haven't lost the $8,000 you spent to get the other one.
Yeah.
Do it yourself. I just don't get it. Maybe there's something else to it, and maybe sometime we could talk to somebody that loves those things, because maybe it makes sense to them.
All right. Time for the gig report. Sorry, I'm having an eye problem because of my allergies. And I just took an allergy pill. I didn't drop acid or anything. I took an allergy pill. I don't do that kind of stuff. Not that it matters. So I have a special surprise this week. All right. So I actually recorded my last gig. Oh, nice. Jim, you see that popping up on screen there. I don't know if you probably can't hear any of this because it'll bleed through, but you can listen to the episode later. So we're just going to listen to a little bit. So I'm going to critique what's going on here. So this is actually the second set that I was up. And I was up with, I don't know if this is playing back through the, hang on 1 second. Let's make sure this is playing back. Oh, it's muted. Okay. Unmute. This is muted. Good. So, actually that's me and Mike Mara. Show listening. So this is an open jam, right? So like nobody knew the tune, except for the singer, guitar player. So it's funny because Mike got stuck with the katana. He didn't bring an amp that night, and the only other guitar player there had a katana. So his katana is sitting on top of my pre-back cab. I'm gonna turn this down just a bit, so it's not like super loud. So it's funny because he's obviously, look, this is not our typical style of music. It's a very, very slow blues.
I was listening to it.
That is Mike. Which he has better licks on this one than I do, for sure.
Oh, okay, I hear him. Yeah.
Okay. So,
is that like a Grateful Dead thing? It sounds great, very Grateful Dead-ish.
It's just like...
Sounds like Bring It On Home to me, or something like that.
An acoustic blues tune of some sort. Let's skip ahead. Okay, so I'm playing the amp one here. I got my, let's go back a little bit so you can hear the... That's me.
Okay, I'm listening now. See, I can hear the rock thing there. When I'm listening to it,
this is why I bring my
roll into it.
This is why I bring my whole. I ended up. I'm glad I didn't show this clip. The band before us, they wanted to play like 3 tunes, and they wanted to play Johnny Be Good, and it did not go well. But I'm using the Univibe there, right? Like it's kind of just trying to be different. So that's. Yep. Then they wanted to play For What It's Worth, right? But it doesn't tell you what the chorus chords are. And of course, I played it with Old Stumpy, but like I'm not practiced up. I'm not ready for a gig with Old Stumpy tomorrow. So I do know I'm playing the harmonics. Mm-hmm. It's the best I can do. You can hear the guitars just kind of drop out as soon as the chorus goes. I love it. This is going to be the format.
Is that the name of that song?
It's For What It's Worth.
I didn't know that was the name of the song.
Yeah. But I'm laughing because I found one of my solos again. I think we're going to do this format more for the gig report.
Yeah, I'll have to send you videos now ahead of time.
Or just upload them to YouTube and then send them to private and send them to me, and then we'll watch them together and critique what's going on. Right. So, as you can tell, the club is fairly empty at this point. This is early in the night. Actually, the sun had not even gone down yet. So I have my little rhythm tricks I do in here. Let's see what we played last. I forget what it was. I was hoping we get to see some of Mike's fireworks in here. Midnight Special. So, neither Mike nor I knew the chords to this, and I was like, well, I can play country licks. So, all the country bends and shit are all me.
Yep.
As I'm listening back, I'm dying right now because as I'm listening back, I'm like, wow, that really did sound like pedal steel shit. Like, where did that come from? I swear I've been in like 2.5 steps there.
A lot of times that's how I'll find out where I'm supposed to be. I'll go, okay, let me see. Oh, that sounded good over that. That's probably an A. And then I'll make a guess. Nope, that was supposed to be C sharp. But sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong. But it's just fun to do that kind of thing.
This is the greatest. I actually really like this format because now you guys can see me react to like this is not a good set for me. Mike and I had a good time. Mike had some fireworks in here. I wish I'll earmark those clips next time because if I get to play with him, like. You guys got to see how good he actually is. But it's like one of those things where we were on stage and we were recording this, and it was like I had my wife sitting there at the table. She had my Q2N 4K, and we just sit that on the table, and so we get decent audio, but we can do reacts like this, so you guys can see what it's like to actually see how a musician feels about what the hell they just did. Because I rarely look back at a video and see anything other than just mistakes and messes. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's always usually a miss.
Oh yeah.
So.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, so you got a gig report. That was Open Jam at Pollyanna Music out in St. Charles, Illinois. They do their Open Jam every other Thursday. It will be this Thursday this week. So if you want to come out sometime, that's where you go. And they do have good talent. It all shows up later in the evening. So we were there pretty early, and we were hanging out and having a good time together. Yeah. So anyway, typical night. Some good people, some sort of like shaky people. Everybody having a good time. Everybody having a lot of fun. So
yep. We had we had a gig. We've taken a week off, so we had a gig last weekend, and it was a lot of fun. I'm about to do some traveling, so I'll be out of pocket for a week, and I got a friend who's going to be staying here, take care of my dog, take care of my lizard, so and my guitars and stuff, and so I'm going to take one up to upstate New York, see if I can get into an open jam or an open mic situation. Matter of fact, there's a guy my mother said has got a gig, and he wanted to talk gear, and I'm going to have my stuff, so I might see if he wants to see if I slip in there with him.
Yeah.
You know, if they're doing standard pop stuff, I can slip in and sing a tune or two. But anyway, so so I'm going to bring the Telecaster with me, I think. But what was I saying? But the thing I was getting to is that you know, I found out at this little place, and I played there before. I didn't want a monitor. I wanted my in-ears, but I didn't figure it out till halfway through, and so it was kind of too late. And I was like, oh, this is just the sound on stage was horrible. It was just a fucking mess. I couldn't hear myself, but the other guitar player could only hear me. Everything was backwards, and everything was out of sync, and everything was off. And he was trying to play. He goes, Jim, I can't hear me for you. And I said, I can't hear me for you. And so the monitor mix was completely messed up. I'm not blaming anybody. That's not that it was just a mess from the word go for that part of it. And I should have put in my in-ears at that point and said, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to my in-ears. I can control my own monitor mix. I can bring everything up and down. But I can tell you that the audience loved it. We got some audience video, which I haven't posted yet. I should have shared that with you.
No, now we know we got the format, so.
And it was really good. And the audience was singing along. And we were doing Friends in Low Places, and they were singing along and enjoying the hell out of it. And I'm like, oh, wait, that's what it sounded like out there? That was awesome. We sounded like shit on stage. I mean, total shit. So it just goes to show you that your stage mix can suck royal and still.
Yeah, I mean, the position of how the speakers point is critical to the listening experience. And so if the mains, you don't hear them, you don't know what the hell you sound like out to the crowd. It's like, I know I have been in situations where like on stage it was just atrocious, but we sounded great to the crowd. Because that's like, people are like, that's the best you guys have ever sounded. I'm like, are you fucking crazy?
Yeah. So it's insane, right? But it was a great gig. A lot of fun. We have another gig the week I get back from New York. We have a lot of stuff. So I'm going to try while I'm on upstate New York to jump into a couple of open things and have some fun.
Well, Old Stumpy is playing Taste of Roselle. It will be Old Stumpy and Friends. It'll actually be the regular crew, and then we're gonna have Mike Tash from Birds of a Feather and a bunch of other bands playing keys, and his lovely wife Olivia Farabacher Tash will be in on vocals, I think, and probably acoustic guitar. So that should be a whole hell of a lot of fun. Although I'm kind of concerned as to how we're going to fit everybody on the fucking stage.
Yeah.
Because I haven't told them yet. I'm bringing 2 cabinets. We're gonna be loud. I need to be able to hear myself on stage. That last show we did there, the monitor mix is terrible. I need to be able to hear myself at least. So I'm just gonna let them mic me up and put a pair of cabs up there.
Yeah, the problem we were running into with our monitor mix is it was such a tight space. My monitor mix was actually, I think, pointed at him, and his monitor was pointed at me. So I was getting more of his monitor, and he was getting more of my monitor. But we were on opposite sides of the lead singer, who was wearing in-ears, couldn't hear either of our monitors, and he was out of touch with what we were hearing. Mm-hmm. So that was where it was just a mess.
Yeah.
And we were out of touch with what the audience was hearing, which it was a nice place with a lot of people. But the problem was, even though there was a lot of people and they were close, the mix they were hearing was coming out of these speakers, which we couldn't hear.
Right.
We could only hear the ones that were on the floor in front of us. So the whole thing was just a mess. It was just terrible.
I hear more and more about side fills.
We booked another gig off it. Yeah.
And maybe taking, because like this is something that I've been thinking about, is like maybe taking an extra mains and using it as a side fill.
Side fill.
Just because when you do get into a situation like that where the front wedges are just terrible, the side fill will at least give you what the audience hears.
We literally had no room. If I showed you a picture.
Oh yeah. I know what local venues look like. Yeah. That's one thing. Like I see these people online sometimes talking about live sound and shit, and they're like talking about this and that and the other thing, and I'm like, where are you guys playing that you have that kind of room, for your 4 kick drum kit? Like, what? If you did that, I would have to play a Strymon Iridium. Like, it's no room for an amp on stage.
That's exactly right. I mean, I played some. We're playing a place when I get back. We're playing a place that we've played before, where the place is huge and we packed it. I mean, it was a big place. We packed it. We kept it packed the whole night. But the stage, we had to put the microphone stands had to sit down on the dance floor, and everything is like off. Mm-hmm. It's like, get it out of the way. And I will definitely be in ears and everything there. There's nowhere to put a floor monitor. I'm not having one. And I would have had so much more room if I didn't have a floor monitor at this last place that I'm referring to. And the truth of the matter is, the in-ears, while they do have a certain sterility about their sound,
they're direct and they're right next to you. You can't escape them. Like, people forget that when you're dealing with wedges, if you move, it changes the sound of everything. Like when I'm at Open Jam, I try to find the right place to stand on the stage when I'm playing. Yep. Because they're like, even moving a couple of inches forward or backwards changes the mix.
Ted Nugent used to put markers down on the floor where he would find his best spots.
Yeah, but that's also for feedback.
That was part of it was for feedback, and part of it was for his sound. A lot of it was probably for feedback.
Yeah,
he loved to get that. He loved to get that Birdland singing on stage. But this is the thing. Like, I'm wearing hair. We're both wearing cans right now.
Yeah.
And here's the thing that like, you ever notice the sound of your voice does not sound the same when you're wearing cans as you wouldn't take them off?
No, that's why people like to sing with cans on.
That's right. Well, some people like to sing them off because they like that inherent airy sound that comes from not having.
Yeah, but you're going to find out that
that's not what you sound like.
Vocal trainers will tell you want to sing with cans on because it actually tells you what you sound like.
That's exactly what I was saying. You don't know what you sound like until you hear what you sound like. And it's always that person that goes, do I sound like that, when they hear a recording of themselves or whatever? And they go, is that what I...
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is. Your voice does not have all that natural reverb and shit you hear, because guess what? It really sounds like if you plugged your ears. That's what it kind of sounds like.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing as when we put we want our guitars to sound the way we hear them in the air, in the open room, and everything else. But in all reality, to the people that are standing out there, like you just said, their perspective of sound changes all over the room, and it's going to be closer to what you have in your ears. And that's why I don't mind the Kemper for that kind of thing. I can understand not using the Kemper for recording and everything else. You know, you get a microphone and you can move it, but you can't take the human. All right, everybody, I want you all to stand right here because this is where my amp sounds the best.
Well, that's sort of why I've not been a big advocate of closed back cabinets in quite a while, because I think open back cabinets breathe better. But that said, I'm starting to come back around to closed backs a little bit more. There's a 2x12 or a 4x12 in my future. I just don't want to store it in this condo right now. But that day is coming. So anyway, we can wrap it up. I think we covered everything tonight. I've been David.
I've been Jim.
And tonight we've been Practical Guitarists.
Roger that.